You're still watching the City of Lagos TV show. The show, of course, that is designated to promote the themes agenda of Mr. Governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu. But first, the City of Lagos is a fast-paced, developing cosmopolitan city, which is characterized by various infrastructural projects carried out by the government itself, corporate institutions, and individuals. And critically, for longevity, quality, and enduring structures, the quality of materials must be of utmost standard to ensure maximum safety, which of course is intended to drive development in the city of Lagos. And so there is a strategic agency that is saddled with the responsibility of ensuring proper testing of materials used for building and civil engineering. And of course, that agency is the Lagos State Materials Testing Laboratory Agency. But for us, what is the scope of operation, efficiency, professionalism, and to a great extent, success story of this agency in terms of also ensuring enforcement as it relates to its set objectives? So let's meet with the general manager of this agency, Engineer Olufunsho Elulade. You're welcome, sir.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Let us first of all, of course, we understand the vision and mission statement of this agency, but of critical concern to us is as a strategic agency involved in testing and building civil engineering materials for standard purpose. What is the operational scope and significant methods and approach to ensure you meet up with international best practices?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Like you rightly said, the vision of the agency is to ensure zero tolerance to, building collapse in the state. And I think that's what led to the establishment of this agency. And like you rightly said, with the themes agenda, making Lagos State a 21st century to live in, which is the M part of the agenda. This agency falls under that because you want to prevent building collapse happening in the state. And as a result of that, the law that was promulgated to, under which this agency operates, mandated this agency to go into any building construction, carry out standard tests, which is always carried out to international best practice, because it's always a civil engineering and building codes that we work with. And again, aside that, this agency also ensure in the course of doing business to identify distressed buildings, whereby that is reported and advise the owners to test, and once it fails, it is marked up for demolition. Recently, the Lagos State government published lists of distressed buildings around the metropolitan Lagos. And of course, we've been getting some of them who wants to avoid the building being demolished, whether they can still be salvaged under the engineering standards. And of course, the staffs have been going out to do that. Like I said, in the law that established the agency, mandated that the agency must have monitoring, enforcement, and compliance. So we work under this umbrella. That's why you see us, we have to go out, monitor construction, making sure people are there strictly to standards. And whoever doesn't want to, we seal it up and compel them to get their construction or the building tested, so in order to avoid collapse.
For every agency, there is always a strategic master plan. Since you came on board, sir, possibly for the benefit of Lagosians, what is the strategic master plan of this agency?
When I came in 21st of February 2021, I identified what would be the quick wins, what would be the medium-term achievement, and the long-term achievement or long-term goal for the agency. And part of the quick wins were reorganizing the agency, creating more units to be receptive to the present condition in the state. There is a unit called MEC, which is just one whole department. Yeah, that is the monitoring, enforcement, and compliance. But I found out that there were duplications of responsibility. So some of the components of that MEC were lacking, which is really key. For example, the compliance. So I had to take compliance out of that, under that department. I had to take it out and establish it as a full unit, okay? So that they have different responsibilities from just going out, sealing and making sure, things were done as the law enshrined. So they were the ones that goes out and remind, have you paid? Have your building been tested? Like a subtle side of the agency. Then I establish again business unit. And that business unit has to do with going into corporate buildings, advising them the need for them to undertake tests. Medium-term goal, this agency operates 5 divisions apart from the head office. You have the Bile, acronym, which is Ikeja Division, Badagry Division, Ikorodu Division, Lagos Division, and Ekpe Division. So I identified that my Badagry Division failed to be in the net, which wasn't down to them. I think is logistic reasons. So what the government have done is to establish a new laboratory, 21st century equipment, so that instead of them having to travel all the way from Okokomaiko, Festac, or Lasu, so there's no excuse for them to say they ain't carrying out the test because the laboratory is within that catchment area. Then secondly, in order to have a wider coverage of the state, to quickly identify or monitor buildings either constructed or under construction, with the approval of Mr. Governor, Mr. Babajide Olusola, for us to have agents, which we coined non-technical consultant. Because so what they do is to mirror what we do as our field officers for tests to be done on construction materials or any civil engineering infrastructure materials. And to be honest with you, it has witnessed a great success. Thirdly, I looked at the law which established the agency. The agency was established 2006 April, but the law does not address the present conditionalities of today. So I changed the law. We are at 90% complete. It's ready to be taken to ESCO, then from ESCO to House of Assembly for it to become law. So those are the medium-term goal, which of course we were at, like I said, 95 or 95%. And the long-term goal is to facilitate the encouragement or to encourage the establishment of laboratories in strategic locations in the state. So it's easy for people to get their materials tested, and most importantly is to get this agency ISO certified, which will be in cognizance with world best practice, and which allows this agency to practice outside the shores of this country.
Quite interesting, really. As a follow-up to that question, within the ambit of the law, does the agency have the necessary potentials, capacity and capabilities to ensure and enforce compliance? Because you've mentioned compliance severally. If yes, to what extent have the agency entrenched its powers? And what is the scorecard?
Oh, yes. In fact, that was what led to the agency getting approval from Mr. Governor to establishing, the non-technical consultant, so that they can go all over the state, and making sure people, conduct tests. And in terms of the enforcement, Yes, we give the developers time to digest whether they will actually being charged the right rates because they are aware of the rates. So then we give them maybe 7 days to comply. It is when we don't see them on our radar, that's when we go out. And once we do enforcement, we go out with secret agents in order to prevent any assault to our staffs. It's always done in such a safe manner. And at the same time, you would understand with me, these are the good people of Lagos State. They are the taxpayers. You don't have to force them or molest them or fight them to, get them comply with the law, because the law allows us to even take them to court. So we have a lot of ways and manners we can compel them to, to get things done. There are lots of good people in this state. They know what the law is. And a lot of people understand the importance of getting the building tested. Okay? But of course, everywhere in the world, you still see some miscreants, I'm sorry to use the word, who would always want to go against the law. I believe that they were the ones that enforcement is really targeting.
What's your experience with corporate institutions?
They've been complying. Aside that, you have the banks too, you have hospitals, you have local government buildings, you have schools. In actual fact, we're just about completing 525 schools, which Mr. Governor paid for, public schools that must be tested. So you can understand. So we test every building almost everywhere in Lagos State, and people have been complying.
Okay, GM, we've had cases of people impersonating personnel of the agencies. What have you done in this regard?
Oh, yes, of course. We hand them to the law enforcement agency, which, is their remit. We are not saddled to, reprimand anybody. So anybody caught, we just send them to the appropriate authority. Even my staffs, when they connive with all these fake agents, trying to tell people they work for government, so I reprimand them as well. I report them to the appropriate authority.
Well, in case you just joined us, you're watching the City of Lagos TV show, and we're speaking with the General Manager of the Lagos State Materials Testing Laboratory, and he's been giving us very clear information and facts with regards to his efforts to reposition the agency for greatness. Now, GM, for the agency to sustain its goals and aspirations, the agency will require adequately trained and proficient workforce for effective service delivery. So what is the human capacity agenda?
Oh, yes, of course. We've been doing a lot of capacity building because this agency is very, very technical. You cannot expect somebody who studied, let me say, biology to come in here to come and work. The state tries as much as possible to post to this agency competent technical people. And of course, we carry out training and retraining periodically. A lot has been done in terms of critical thinking for the staffs, leadership program for, all the heads of units and departments, and technical training for, of course, the guys that carries out tests, because all those equipments, if you are not trained on how to use them, you don't even know what to do with them.
Lagos, as a fast-growing cosmopolitan city, actually experiences high frequency of building and civil engineering activities. Do you have an effective monitoring and capturing mechanism to keep accurate data of the information?
I will say yes, because we are at the development stage, because part of the initiative is to establish a digitalized way of working, because this agency is seen as a smart agency. We are trying to move away from the analog system. For example, we have our servers, we communicate through our own internal system, email system, Outlook. You can go to every offices, you will see intercom. And what led to that is that when I came, I realized That is the way forward. And for effectiveness and efficiency, that's the best way to go. So part of the initiative that I proposed, which we are still developing, is called e-project monitoring. And this is in collaboration with the State Office of EGIS. Okay. So what that does, when we finish, because we are in liaison or synergy with Office of EGIS, which will be loaded on some of the laptops or computer, it allows you to sit in the office, and once you put in coordinates, it gives you a real-time information of what is going on. So people can see that, okay, yesterday we checked this building, or last month we checked this building, they were at the first floor, now it's going to second floor, so they know where to go. So it's not just running helter-skelter like a headless chicken all over the state and not even achieve anything.
You also have some sister agencies. How do you collaborate and synergize with these sister agencies?
Collaboration is better now than it used to be, I have to be honest with you. But there are 4 key agencies that our work is interwoven. Yeah? You have LAPSCA, LASPA, Safety Commission, and you have Material Testing Laboratory. There is no way in the course of development or construction in the state, you cannot escape those 4 agencies. This agency was established in 2006. And from 2006, standard has been maintained, except those developers that erred, which didn't go or conform or built to the law. What happens to those buildings that were built before 2006 and that were built with substandard materials? Yeah, of course, you would expect. And I keep saying this. That is one of the things the new law would address, is to give this agency the power to go to any building at any time and carry out a non-destructive test to check the structural integrity. The moment we undertake a visual test and we deduce from that visual test that this building is, dilapidated or is under distress, that allows us to swing in and just go do the test. We do meetings quarterly and we exchange books. For example, if you want to get approval from LASPA, especially when you are renovating or you are changing use, LASPA will tell you, go to material testing and get that building tested. Once you give us your report, we'll continue with your processing of approval. And LAPCA will tell you, okay, this is the test you have carried out. This is what you are building. This one you are building, have you carried out the test? Go to Material Testing Laboratory. Safety Commission will enter that site and will see whether you have conformed with the safety on site measures. So whichever way you look at it. For example, some of the buildings, because I won't say all, they too identified some defects in some buildings. Some of the buildings being published by LAPSCA were as a result of the list I generated. Because once the test is carried out and we identify that that building is not fit for habitation, we collate all those buildings under a cover letter, we send them to LAPCA, and LAPCA swing into action. So there's been, a lot of collaboration in the state.
Mr. Governor has been given another mandate for 4 years. What will be the areas as an agency intends to consolidate? Because this is a good one for the government. So you're able to have some level of continuity in delivering the dividends of democracy to Lagosians. So as general manager of this agency, areas of consolidation, what are you thinking? Prospective plans?
Yeah, well, I think we'll continue doing what we are doing. And, we'll continue, building capacity. And at the same time, aggressive public enlightenment until everybody understands that this is Lagos. You cannot just come and just start building without complying to the rules and regulations of the state. So it gives us a platform to consolidate more on what we have been doing. And at the same time, the law allows us to encourage the establishment of private laboratories. So a lot of public advocacy will be done, especially for private laboratories. We have a register for all private laboratories. And what that means is that if you go and use any laboratory that is not being regulated by this agency and you take it for approval or for LabCat to do their job, they will not accept it. They write us severally to ask that, okay, they've gotten a report from a laboratory, is he under our, register or on our register? Then I reply them, okay, yes. But if I say no, they will not take it because you can go and falsify a report.
So to what extent has Mr. Governor actually been of great support and motivator to this agency?
Credit be given to who is due. In the history of this agency since its establishment, it is only this administration under the government of or governance of Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu invested hundreds of millions in this agency, and that is the gospel truth. The Okokomaiko laboratory, if I tell you hundreds of millions that were spent to procure state-of-the-art equipment, testing equipment, in fact, you'll be shell-shocked. So I will use this opportunity to thank Mr. Governor for making my job so easy in this agency because, he believed in this agency and in realizing the team's agenda, which, of course, making Lagos State the 21st century, I'm sure he did his very, very best for this agency.
Engineer Olufunsho Elulade, thank you for coming on the program. But before we go, it will be good for you to just encapsulate the achievements so far.
I think there is a reduction in, collapse in Lagos State compared to what was happening about a decade ago in this state. Because we are all here in this state, we hear building collapse every day. You cannot take it away from the fact that we'll still be having few, but the level of compliance and the awareness of the agency has risen astronomically. Before, a lot of people would ask, what is this agency, what do they do? But people are aware that there's an agency that is in charge of testing building construction and civil engineering infrastructural materials in order to prevent collapse in the state. I have representatives from other states that comes here to understudy us. Okay, from which law established it, okay, what do you do? I even have academic bodies as well. They will come, NC, NICE, Engineering Resources, Builders Association. I can go on and on. And of course, we undertake work out of Lagos. Ogun State, we've done a lot. Oyo State, we've done a lot. Osun State in Elisha, we've done a lot. So you can understand.
Okay, GM, it's been wonderful having you on the program. And of course, we at this end will continue to project your achievements and success stories. So on a final note, what's your word of encouragement and assurance to all the critical stakeholders and especially to Lagosians?
Well, I will say to Lagosians that it's critical and very important to carry out material testing because Lagos State today, even Nigeria today, is being flooded with fake materials. So in order for them to sleep easy, I think they should consider. And even what the government is going to do in the future is to make sure that if you want to sell a property, then it will be the right of the buyer to request for all the tests that have been carried out during construction. It's going to go to that because it's part of what the law is going to say in the future. That, before you can sell, a prospective buyer will request for a lot of documentation in terms of civil engineering or building tests being carried out before the building has been completed. So it's important for Lagos State to adhere strictly to law and make Lagos State a safe and livable city and be the pride of Africa.
I want to thank you, sir, for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Well, it's been a wonderful time speaking with the General Manager of the Lagos State Materials Testing Laboratory, giving us very verifiable facts and information on the efforts of the agency to ensure a safe Lagos. The City of Lagos TV show will continue in a moment. We'll be right back.